week. Yeah, this week has been so eventful, by the way, starting with our president being in the UK, in New York actually, in that UN National Assembly. Yes, that is happening in the New York, and a lot has really been said in that assembly. A lot has really been said, and I know people have been so excited about the speech that our president gave, by the way. Yeah, it was such a very good speech that every other African leader really appreciated. I don't know what about us here in Kenya, because niliona wali point out some few achievements that the Kenya Kwanza government or the Kenyan government is really trying to achieve, and therefore it means that we are on the right trajectory according to our neighbors, according to other African nations. And therefore, in this generation report, please expect that we shall be informing you of those news reports, those that you missed in the course of the week. Tutakuwa pia tunaangalia na tunaangazia zaidi hizo ripoti ambazo ulipata hii wiki, ama habari ambazo ulisikia hii wiki. Pia tutakuwa tunakupatia nafasi pia ya kuchangia katika kipindi siku ya leo. Nimekuambia kwamba niko na wageni, tutakuwa tunaangalia zaidi hizi habari. Na bila kuharibu muda zaidi, nitakuwa namkaribisha mgeni wangu ambaye tayari yupo hapa, Kidi Mwaga. Tulikuwa na yeye hapa last time and I did such an amazing work. Yeah, tulizungumza pamoja hapa, mambo yalikuwa ni shwari kabisa, na leo tunatarajia zaidi ya hapo.
Well, Patricia.
Yes. Nakupata, tuendelee.
Ni furaha chungu nzima kuwa katika studio za Radio Generation, ili si mimi na wewe pamoja na Wakenya tuangalie kwamba wiki hii ni yapi yametendeka katika ulingo wa siasa. Sisi tuko hapa kutathmini siasa za nchi hii, kuhakikisha kwamba tuna uongozi ambao unajali maslahi ya raia, na tukizidi kuhakikisha kwamba tuna serikali adilifu, serikali chapakazi, na serikali ambayo tunaweza jivunia
kabisa.
Ikiwa tunahisi kwamba serikali inaenda kombo, tutasema. Na ikiwa tunahisi kwamba serikali iko katika njia salama, pia tutaambia wananchi. Asante.
Yeah, and most of the time I keep on telling Kenyans and the listeners in general that the discussions that we have here, the conversations that we have here, they do really inform decision making in our countries, in the country. Najua tunapata wengine pia wanasikiza kutoka kule nchi za nje. That's why I'm saying countries. Yes,
this is the biggest media house south of Sahara and north of River Limpopo.
I'll see. So here we inform decision making, we inform, we shape opinions in our discussions here, because we look at different stories that happened, and in one way or another, if something happens in Nairobi here, it will affect you, it will affect me. Kitu kikifanyika ama jambo lolote likifanyika kule Lamu, kwa njia moja au nyingine, kuna vile itakuwa ina kuaffect ukiwa hapa Nairobi. So this news that we do a roundup of is because we know they do affect us, and therefore we are here to ensure that we give a review. We give our opinions, we give our ideas, so that we can inform decision making and how our country is driven. Well, as we were starting, uliona kwamba tulianza hapo hivi na some bite hapo hivyo about mgomo. I mean, let me just say a push. It's a push from JSS teachers.
Very good.
Yes. So on education matters.
A
lot has really happened, and we just want to discuss and see, like, okay, what are we not doing right? Or what our country, our leadership is not really doing right, or maybe what we are supposed to do as Kenyans. And therefore, You dear listener, if you're listening from your neighbor's gadget, kuna mtu pengine ameingia kwa matatu akapata kwamba Radio Generation inazungumza pale. If you're in Nairobi, it is 88.8. Kwa hivyo kama ulikuwa unategea kwa simu and now you are home and you want to listen, to continue listening, please tune in to 88.8. For those of you wenye wako Mombasa, tulisema ni 90.7. Watu wa Mombasa, watu wa sehemu za kule pwani, 90.7 utakuwa unapata, utaweza kufuatilia mazungumzo ambayo tunafanya hapa hivi. Na vile kama uko somewhere that you're not able to use a radio or something, please you can also follow us on our social media platforms. We are just live there. Ukienda kwa Facebook Radio Gen KE utakuwa unatupata, ukienda kwa Twitter also utakuwa unatupata at Radio Gen KE. Vile kule kwenye website yetu pia rgk.co.ke. Ukiingia kule hivi pia utakuwa unaweza kufuatilia mazungumzo ambayo tunayafanya hapa hivi. Nilikuwa nimetangulia kusema kwamba tulitaja masuala ya JSS, Junior Secondary School, ambapo ni habari ambayo zimekuwa kila mahali kuanzia pale Jumatatu. Walimu wa JSS wanalia sana.
Ndiyo.
Wanasema kwamba they want independence, they want autonomy.
Yes.
Umesikia pale wakisema ni autonomy mpaka mwisho.
Ndiyo dada Patricia, kwanza kabla nianze, lazima niambie wa Kenya ambao wamechukua fursa kujiunga nasi kwamba mimi ni nani.
Bila shaka, go ahead.
Kwa wanaojiunga nasi, kwa majina naitwa Kidimwaga. Ninafanya kazi na kikundi kinachojiita Felt Africa Group as the senior policy associate. Politically, because I am fairly politically active, natoka katika chama cha KANU, where I work as the secretary for policy and legislative affairs. Ukitoka huko, kwa sababu mimi ni kijana barobaro, ninajihusisha na masuala ya siasa za vijana kama mwenyekiti wa Interparties Youth Forum, a body that brings together the voices of young people from across the political divide and channels that voice, imagination and intellect towards issues of common concern. Na ninafuraha chungu nzima kujiunga nanyi jioni ya leo.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Karibu sana. Ulikuwa unaendelea tu?
Ndiyo, nikianza na swala la JSS. Nahisi kwamba lazima tuitathmini kwamba tukiangalia swala zima la masuala ya elimu nchini. Let us look at the education infrastructure in this country. Kwa sababu I come from a school of thought that the glass is always half full, as opposed to the glass being half empty. Lazima niseme kwamba kuna hatua nyingi serikali ya Kenya Kwanza imepiga ili kuboresha hali ya elimu nchini. Tuanze kwamba katika miaka miwili ambayo imepita, the government has employed 76,000 teachers. 76,000 teachers means that the student to the teacher ratio has improved drastically. At the same time, we must also ask ourselves that is that enough? Katika kipindi hicho pia serikali imetoa salary increase kwa walimu. Lakini swali lazima pia tujiulize, pesa huwa haitoshi. Lakini tutathmini kwamba ilifanywa kwa njia gani. Patricia,
yes.
Education is the most important thing that a country can invest in if it seeks to put a material dent on inequality.
We are in agreement.
The way education is structured in this country today, all policy actors, all stakeholders, from parents to teachers to students to the learners and the citizens of this country, agree that if there is one area that requires concerted effort, it is the area of education. Let us look at education from the most foundational level. ECD. ECD 1 is left, well, it is a devolved function since the new constitution came in.
Yes.
The counties are given the responsibility to implement, but the policy is left in the hands of the mandarins at Jogo House. As a consequence, because of the split responsibility, the counties are not putting their best foot forward to implement that which has come from Jogo House. And our friends at Jogo House are also suggesting policy framework that there is no financial and structural capacity to implement in the grassroots. As a consequence, if you look at education, we are now engaged in structural inequality, because children from poor backgrounds are unable to get quality pre-primary education, which therefore means that as in comparison to their peers from wealthier backgrounds, they have got challenges around numeracy, around literacy skills, and that also affects their employability later in life. Because of lack of structures at that foundational level, because the amount of money we take to the devolved function is we are paying salaries for county workers. There is also the bit of money that is being siphoned. I wish that we get to a point where we focus more intently on early childhood development. That way, we will make sure that children from poorer backgrounds have got a fair shot in life as well as their wealthier counterparts.
Yes.
Just hold the when you come to primary education, and this is where there is another big problem. In the last 1 decade, we have had what is called CBC, or is it CBE? One, remember that the stakeholders in this sector were sucker punched by government into submission. The parents, the teachers, and of course the learners. There have been so much issues that the government has either been unwilling to respond to, or it has responded to in a manner that has not addressed the concerns of the stakeholders. One of them is now the challenge we are talking about.
Yes.
Where we have got JSS tutors who are brought to teach at the primary, because the JSS classes are in primary schools.
Yes, yes.
But then now they are forced to be under a headmaster whom they are better educated than.
Yeah, they feel like, yeah.
Yes. And because of, insecurity is in everyone. When I was young, I used to think that people in senior positions are, self-confident and have got no insecurities. Because I have had the good fortune to work in politics at the highest level, I have come around to appreciate that the higher people go, the more insecure they become. So those headmasters sometimes, and there was a video from Luo Nyanza sometime about 2 or 3 months ago.
Yes.
Where a headmaster had attacked a JSS teacher, and on grounds that were not very clear, physically confronting. So I think that these are issues that requires that all the stakeholders come together and the government hears what is the concern of the tutors and then addresses them. The third thing is the question of remuneration. There has been the conversation that most of these teachers are on contract. Over and above being on contract, the pay that they are given is also very, for lack of a better word, very kidogo.
Kidogo.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think so that now we don't spend more time,
yes,
a lot of time on that. On education, I think we had several issues. We had the issue of Nyamira. You had the people talk there. You had the junior secondary school teachers talking.
Yes.
You also had Bomet, and we also had something from Kilifi, whereby they talked of what you are actually talking about.
Yes.
The issue of some of the teachers being on internship, and they have not yet been observed into the service.
Yes.
So that was one of the issues they were complaining about.
Yes.
And now the bone of contention majorly is on the resources, whereby they are saying that now the resources, the capitation, the amounts, the funds that are meant for the JSS, they are sent to the secondary school instead of the where the JCC are.
Yes.
Yes. So JSS, where the JSS are.
Patricia, if the duty bearers are listening to us, we cannot attempt to politicize the question of education. But CBC, this JSS Manenos, requires immediate intervention.
Sure.
I say this because when we were growing up, teachers used to have very organized labor relations. But then lately, the last administration, particularly, I hold the last administration responsible because it made sure that it dismantled industrial organization, labor relations in this country. It destroyed labor unions, or it just weakened them. Yes, but then it is a trend that this administration has followed. So sometimes I get amused at the games of musical chairs when members of this administration are pretending to be attacking the members of the last administration, while just not so long ago, they used to be the defenders of the same ills that were committed and perpetrated by the last administration. Today, about a month ago, we saw when the chair of NAT was dancing himself lame at State House. While at the same time, there were reports that in the salary increase that was given to teachers, some teachers were getting less than 500 shillings salary increase. So which CBA is that they signed where a teacher is given, and there was a teacher who was saying that they got a salary increase of 99 shillings. So there is so much work to do to sanitize the education sector. And part of why this is important, Tricia, is that the government today tells us that its most intelligent intervention in the question of unemployment is labor migration. One thing that labor migration is going to do, it is going to ease pressure on the households, because now people have got jobs and sending back money at home in the short term. But what this is going to do in the long term is that it is going to scatter the talent and the human resource that we have built over time. This then means that when we approach the question of manufacturing or setting up a manufacturing base that we were talking about last time,
yes,
we will not have the talent, because our best talent will be in
exported,
Middle East,
yes,
in the Europe and elsewhere, exported out there. It therefore means that because the government is determined to use labor migration in the short term, it's something I disagree with, but wengi wape. Because they are going to do it, they must invest in proper education so that we produce the next talent for the future. Thank you.
Well, I think in terms of investing in proper talents, I think as a country, we have been trying, and that is why we have a high level of unemployment.
Yes.
Also in the country. We have people who are capable. They have the skills, they have everything, but they do not have jobs. And that's why I think the government really resulted into the issue of exporting, that temporary exportation of labor to other countries. And again, I'm just going to look back at what now the president talked about, the issue of putting proper infrastructure, the issue of proper infrastructure for manufacturing, for production in our country, industrialization, and so many other things, so that we be able to create that employment.
Dada Patricia, I told you that in spite of my ties to the political leadership in this country, I will not play politics, at least not under the generation. We come here to tell the people of Kenya the truth. When we are exporting talent the way we are doing, when our most intelligent intervention in the question of unemployment in the here and now is labor migration, we are taking away our best talent, because the process of going to these other countries is also a bit rigorous. So it is the most resilient who will then offer themselves.
True.
As a consequence, it therefore means that our best talent, growing up there was this buzzword called brain drain. Now, brain drain was where we used to complain that those other countries in the global north and elsewhere were stealing our best brains. Right now, the shoe is on the other foot, where ourselves are saying, please take our best talent and leave us with the worst. One thing that will follow is that in the coming days, having exported our best talent, we will be having to grapple with high crime rates, because we shall have no pressure to build a manufacturing base locally. Without a pressure to build a manufacturing base locally, and with a government that is lazy, that thinks that everyone else can go into what we call digital economy, what then is going to follow is that people are going to be tied into what you call gig economy. Gig economy can be quite unstable and unsustainable. As a consequence, a lot of young people are unable to find the assurance that they can do this and get a job, that they can do this and put lights on for their children and food on the table for their loved ones, will then resort to muggings, will then resort to criminality, will then resort to crime. I plead with the political leadership of this country that the question of education must be taken seriously if we are to sustain a proper society than we inherited. Thank you.
Okay, what do you take of this?
And the strike is not ending soon. What members of the university community have decided that they will only go back once the 7.9 billion hits the account. This is a historical CBA, and the government is aware. They were represented in court. The court made a determination on 15th January 2021, and they appealed. The appeal collapsed. The Attorney General advised them on 10th of April 2025, and we want them to honor that court judgment. Don't tell us we know how to deal with the court judgments and court orders. We are rightfully seated in court, and the court will make a determination whether the order that you are talking about was procedurally procured, because we believe your attorneys misled the court, and we are rightfully in court. File your submissions as well, await the determination on 6th. But I want to tell you, IPCCF is saying that SRC will give them beacons on 30th. We are ready to wait up to 30th. So after 30th, you can engage us on the 2025-2029 CBA.
Well, you've heard what they are saying.
Yes.
And it's all about the university strike that has been on for some time now.
Yes.
And of course, it has paralyzed education in the universities. And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Yes. So what do you take out of this statement? And again, I know the cabinet secretary also came out and talked about that the government is really working towards ensuring that they are paid their dues. The university workers, the university lecturers, the dons,
Yes.
they will be paid. So what do you take out of that statement?
Well, one, I think that the UASU, the dons have got a proper Secretary General, and their labor relations is much more organized as opposed to what we saw the NAT chairman engage in, going to dance himself lame in State House while members of his organization are being mistreated by the government. I say being mistreated because how can you give a teacher a salary increase of 99 shillings? But then away from that, part of the problem around the labor relations stem in part from the conduct of the last administration. What the last administration will do was to kick the can down the road. So it would engage in CBA, collective bargaining agreement. It would concede to everything you are asking for, but then defy it. Some of those CBAs that were deferred have now come due when that administration is out of office, and this administration has to deal with it. In a sensible manner, we would have expected that this administration would have anticipated some of these CBAs coming due and asking the unions on to come before time so that they negotiate or renegotiate. But then, in a country where there is so much to steal, and I wouldn't want to start pointing fingers at where corruption has been domiciled, but we all know that there is a lot of pilferage in this economy. If we are keen about things like education, we could have the government seal such corruption and loopholes and have that money being invested in critical sectors like the education. As we welcome my brother, the yearly alumni, I must say, we have underinvested in pre-primary education, what you call ECD. We are mismanaging the basic education, that is primary and secondary schools, and we have neglected tertiary education. When we neglect the manufacturing of the next talent, we are killing our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Kidi. Karibu sana Bwana Alfred. Najua jamu you said you underrated the Nairobi traffic.
I understand.
And especially on a Saturday like today.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of traffic today, but I don't understand what is the problem. Yeah, today. So karibu sana Bwana Alfred. So to the dear listener.
Well, if you didn't know,
yes,
money has come.
Money has come.
And the wallets are fat.
Yeah, so Alfred is a political analyst, and of course he's going to say much or more about himself. So please stay tuned in. This is Radio Generation, the home of hard truth and bold insights. All the way from morning, it's all about hard truths and bold insights. So if you are tuning in for the first time, hey Nairobi, it is 88.8. Those of you ambao wako Mombasa kule pwani ni 90.7. Ukifungulia pale hivi utakuwa unatupata pia katika tovuti yetu kwenye rgk.co.ke. That is our website. So if you get to that website, utakuwa unatupata pale live and direct. Also on our social media platforms at Radio Gen KE utakuwa pia unatupata. Karibu sana Bwana Alfred. Umesikia tulikuwa tunazungumzia masuala ya elimu katika nchi yetu. Tumeona kwamba walimu wa JSS wametokea kusema kwamba wanahitaji independence. They want that autonomy. They want to manage their own resources. They want to do their things on their way. And then also we've seen the university dons wamekuwa on strike for some time now. Education in the universities imekuwa paralyzed for some time right now. So what is your take on what the cabinet secretary said about that wamelipa kidogo na watakuwa wanamalizia the other balance?
I think we are not taking our education very seriously, and the generation of the Cabinet Secretary Ogamba, the generation of President William Ruto, even Kindiki, the older generation, I think they have let their guard down in this sense. My father and mother happened to pass through university in KU and University of Nairobi. And the stories they tell me are not the stories, and it is not what is happening right now in this generation. Of course, time has changed, and when times change, you expect better leadership in the ministry and in the universities. When William Ruto was going to university, Kindiki and Ogamba, they never experienced these problems. In fact, they say that they are being given help well in advance. When they were in university, I think meals were affordable in the mess.
It's true.
Yes. But when you look at the problems we are experiencing right now, and I can't agree more with what my brother has said, I think we are not being serious in the way we manage our education sector. The CBS, right now, the lecturers are complaining of two CBS which have not been implemented. And yes, we have a change of administration, but the governments do not change. I think the undersecretaries, the people in the labor union, or the people who are negotiating these agreements are still there. We have budgets being read every single year, finance bill being read every single year. Why can't we factor some of these CBS in the budget so that we don't have this lapse? You can remember last year, the same time, lecturers on strike, and that even costed my graduation last year. I was supposed to graduate, and 2 months we didn't have defenses at Masinde Muliro University because lecturers on strike. So my graduation was deferred to this year. So we are looking at even this year, although I defended, but if this graduation stays too long, they will say, we don't have enough time to prepare for graduation. What about those who are maybe taking medicine, those who are staying maybe 7 years, 6 years? So what you're saying is that the government should have better plans to manage the education sector and all other sectors in perpetuity. Government exists in perpetuity.
True.
So we don't have to say that now that we have a change of regime, things have stalled, or these are problems that cannot be tackled. The lecturers are putting out very legit demands on the table. These are welfare issues on the in the lecturer side, and the welfare issues on the lecturer side affect the students on the other side. So if we just sweep these things under the carpet, the quality of our graduates, the quality of our students will go down. And it cannot be taken away that the problem again cascades down to secondary schools, issues of capitation, issues of the junior secondary school teachers wanting to have autonomy so that they can handle their own challenges in the best way they can. So I think leadership has to take action. And if it does not take action, I think they'll be doing a disservice to Kenyans.
Very true. Very true. I think now we shall be looking at something different. I think now the stakeholders, everybody who is concerned with education, they've heard what the cries of the people, and even what we are also saying here, that they really need to take education serious. I know in terms of allocations, when it comes to the budgeting, they say that education is taking one of the biggest percentage in the allocations. Yeah. And so now the question is it that education is too huge, such that even that big amount of allocation that we feel like we are allocating to education is not really enough?
No, I don't think so.
people who feel that others are of the past and this is their time, and they feel that there are people within that arrangement that have overstayed their welcome in certain places. So, and then of course, within the factions that others are feeling that have overstayed, there are also emerging leaders who have also proven to be very effective mobilizers. And therefore, attempts have been made just within the broad-based to undermine, to curtail, and to stop such leaders in the track. And I will give you an example. It started when there was an attempt to drag the name of certain leaders within Homa Bay County to have had improper engagement with part of their staff. When that did not stick and it didn't bring this leader down, then we moved to the unfortunate demise of Honorable Ngondowere.
Yes.
And all the drama around it. And you remember some leaders saying that we did not sign up into broad-based government so that we are killed. That was part of the disquiet. That disquiet has continued. So it demonstrates that there is a vicious sibling rivalry within the broad-based. But then within that cloud, the silver lining is that a young man got an opportunity to fly the ticket of his party. That for me is a silver lining. The silver lining because I work with young people daily. We say that young people must run for office, that they must inject their new ideas into their parties, hoping that those new ideas will help revolutionize those parties. And therefore today, as I am here on Radio Generation, I send my congratulations to Boyd Were for flying the flag of his party, and let his opponents meet him kwa debe, so that we know that within Homa Bay and Luo Nyanza, which arm of broad-based government is stronger? Is it ODM or is it this other Johnny Camlet, please? Thank you.
Okay, let's hear from Alfred.
I want to speak to the violence in the primaries. I think Kasipul is one of the places where since the election of Ngondowere and the politics around Homa Bay, it has become very violent. And even before the unfortunate death of the Honorable MP, we saw very bitter rivalry between the late MP and his opponents. At some point, the county government was involved or was accused to be involved. I think this violence spilled over to the election primaries. Now that the son to the late MP was one of the front runners in the party primaries. And the problem is not the parties per se. I think the problem is the security organs around that area. When we know very well that we are having primaries in one single constituency in the whole of Nyanza region, and this area has had previous violent political activities, why can't the regional commissioner, the county commissioner, plus all the security organs deploy enough intelligence, enough security to secure people and lives? I saw a situation where it really broke my heart, because one of the incidences that happened was one of the opponent's business premise was attacked, and I think they found a few vehicles parked there. It was a hospital, and there was the goons vandalized the whole area. What has a party primary got to do with a business premise of an opponent?
Okay, just hold on there, because we are just heading to the top of the hour. We shall continue with that thought once we come back. So do not go far. This is Radio Generation 88.8.
It's 8 o'clock.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This week, power was tested in the corridors of leadership, economies shook under pressure, and the voices of ordinary citizens demanded to be heard. From breaking decisions in high office to protests in the streets, from moments of triumph to tragedies that stopped us in our tracks, these are the headlines that shaped our week. And beyond the noise, we search for what really matters, the connections, the context, the stories behind the stories. Introducing Patricia Wayoa, and this is your weekly news roundup on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
We'd like to assure the country and the citizens of this beautiful Republic of Kenya that all preparations are the top gear, and the resources that we were looking for in order to conduct a successful by-elections are now available to us. Where there were shortages, we've had very candid and honest and fruitful discussions with our National Treasury, who have since then unlocked that, and therefore there's no reason whatsoever why we should not have the by-elections as planned. And also I would like to brief the nation that this morning up to this afternoon we've had a very fruitful engagement with our political parties through the Political Party Liaison Committee platform, together with the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, and as a tripartite group, we have discussed a number of issues on our levels of preparedness, not only for 2027 general elections, but also for the by-elections and the voter registration exercises and the campaign that we are launching next week, beginning on 29th September, Monday.
Yes, this is Radio Generation 88.8 hapa Nairobi, kule Mombasa 90.7. Ukiingia pale hivi utakuwa unatupata. Ukitaka pia kutufuatilia kwenye tovuti yetu utakuwa unatupata kupitia kwenye rgk.co.ke, on our social media platforms Radio Gen KE. We are there just live in all those platforms, so you can be able to follow the conversations here. We are doing a news roundup of everything that happened in the course of the actually a biggest news that happened in the course of the week. We have already highlighted or talked about the issue of education, which of course we've seen there has been a strike that has been happening for some time right now, and the cabinet secretary of course spoke this week and promised that something has been done and something is still being worked on. So we are hoping that we shall be getting a solution to that. Again, now we're here on matters election. We have heard what the chair IEBC has said, that the IEBC is already ready. It's ready like yesterday, that the resources they required, they are ready. And of course, they've stipulated the time period when they are expecting that politicians will start doing their campaigns. Yes, that tumesema kwamba so far so good, everything has already happened. Everything that is supposed to be taking place kuanzia mwezi wa 10, it's already happening. Kaspul tumesikia mambo yake, of course. Dada amesema kwamba kumekuwa na some quietness. Kuna tu vitu tu zimekuwa ziendi vizuri, but people are just quiet about them, and of course we are seeing them come out during this by-election. It is a test for them, actually, for the new commission. Yeah, yes. It is a test for them. We really want to see, but again, when we talk of biasness, when we talk of this unfairness in terms of elections, it starts even from the party level. Party levels, and that is what we are witnessing so far, not only in Kaspul. We've heard in other places whereby they're accusing contestants, they are accusing those running those activities for biasness. Yeah, wanasema kwamba katika hizi party kuna ambao wanapendelewa. And it matters anyway. So you were saying something before we went for the break.
Yes, I was saying that the area Kasipul has had very violent political activities since last year.
For the longest. Not even last year.
Yes.
Yes.
For the longest time, yes. And we have security organs in the area. I believe we have police stations, the regional office, the county office, county commissioner. I think it should have been done better when, especially in cases where we know that this area we have fierce rivalry between political opponents. The problem of security cannot be left on ODM alone or on any other political contenders. They do not have the power to secure the lives and property of even themselves. And that's why we had the unfortunate incident of cars being stoned, people being maimed, properties that were not even involved in the election being destroyed. I think that area should be called into order. Unfortunately, that is where PS Omolo comes from. I think the security of the people and the security of property in that area needs to be taken more seriously. There should be an overhaul in the whole security structure in Homa Bay. If not, we are going to see the same situation in the election in November. Trust me.
True, and not only in November, even the 2027 elections.
Yes.
Actually, you've got me thinking like, okay, why is it that the government, having seen what has been happening, because this is not something that started yesterday, haikuanza jana, so serikali imekuwa ikiona what has been happening. So now the question is, what is the government really doing about the security of that area in terms of ikifika maswala ya election, uchaguzi?
I think it's just complacency. Somebody has slept on the job, and I think it's a whole chain. Because political violence or any other kind of violence must be planned. Some of it is spontaneous, maybe when somebody is retaliating, but it must be planned. And it is at this time that the NIS has to have more officers in Kasipul. The DCI has to have more officers in Kasipul. I was just juxtaposing. It is a single constituency in a whole Nyanza region. Why can't 2 or 3 or 4 officers from Kisumu be reinforced to take care of the security of the people of Kabondo Kasipul? I'm talking this because there are people who would wish to have their say in the party primaries, but they are fearful. They fear, if I go to the polling station and I say I am not voting for so and so, I'll be maimed. There are political players, mobilizers, agents who may be fearing for their lives right now, and we don't have to wait for an incident to happen. I think one life of a Kenyan is as important as the life of all of us, and it is the responsibility of government to take care of the property and life of each and every Kenyan. So the problem is just complacency, and the political players in Homa Bay must speak to this, because if it does not affect you right now, maybe in the ODM primaries, I think their time is coming. And the reason why I'm speaking the way I'm speaking, I don't want this culture of violence to spill over to other, because personally we are having elections in Malava constituency where I come from.
Oh, you come from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We had the UDA nominations, but they were not violent. But I'm seeing, if the culture of violence is not condemned, we are going to see that culture from Homa Bay spilling over to Kakamega, spilling over to areas where we have
to other places.
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Kidi, you have something to add on that?
Malava was peaceful because broad-based was not having sibling rivalry there. Well, truth is, I think that there is a serious disquiet, and we must appreciate broad-based for what it is. A bed of strange bedfellows. They are strange bedfellows because broad-based coming together, and of course they have justified their coming together in very philosophical terms. But I think that when Gen Z protest 2024 happened, it threatened the interest of the established political class. And so the political class, in defense of their interest, then quickly closed ranks and then justified their coming together in philosophical terms. And they have reminded us of what happened in Egypt and everywhere. Mm-hmm. They're not telling us what happened in Bangladesh or what has happened in Nepal. And I think that Kenyans could have chosen a better history. But here we are. The coming of broad-based, and this now brings into focus the existence of broad-based. That has it helped address the fundamental questions that the people of Kenya were saying? Or has it granted a ticket to the political class to continue with the same misgovernance that the young people of Kenya were decrying? ODM told us that giving away our strategic national assets is an idea we should clap at and rejoice about. We have got the expressway that was done by the money of the people of Kenya, that people of Kenya do not own, and they will not own for the next 27 years. We know the recklessness that was done around the SGR, and so we do not know. We are here wondering, particularly those who believed in ODM, those who for a moment thought that the party leader was a force for change, that what type of government would ODM have presided over had they had the rare chance to preside over the distribution of cost and benefits of public policy in this country? I think that maybe the people of Kenya might have escaped the biggest heartbreak, but I could be wrong.
Okay. Okay. Let's listen to this.
And from Nyeri to Machakos County, where the Machakos County Assembly has received a note.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Patricia Waiua, and this is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts. This is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation.
Na kwa sababu Rais Ruto ametuunganishia barabara ambayo imetoka Mandera kupitia pale Lamu, kukuja Gare, kukuja Elwak, kuteremuka mpaka pale Kobo, kuja mpaka Kotulo, kuja mpaka Tarban, Wajia, Samata, Modagashe, Kulamawe, mpaka Isiolo. Tunasema Rais Ruto ni fire. Ni fire si fire. Ni noma si noma. Wapi tu tamu ya William Ruto jameni kwa kujenga barabara?
Inajengwa hivi karibuni, itaanza hapa Samatar, hapa kwetu kwa constituency hizi. Mnajua tunashukuru nani? Mheshimiwa Rais.
Mimi kama Umi Mohamed Bashir nashukuru Your Excellency. Mimi msichana wa Habaswein, msichana wa Wajia South, msichana wa Wajia, msichana wa Northern Kenya na Muislamu, nimepatiwa PS. Hebu mpigie Rais William Samoei Ruto.
Wacha niwaulize, hii stima mnaomba mama county ataenda kutoa wapi? Mama ataenda wapi? Mama ataenda wapi? Na baba ni nani? Nani anataka tuende tukatafute stima kwa His Excellency William Samoei Ruto? Mkono juu. Kwa hivyo mnataka nikae serikali? Dani hapo.
You are a part and a parcel of the mess that Kenya is undergoing. You cannot run away. You are the one who brought us William Ruto. You are the one who served with William Ruto for 5 years. And you renewed his contract after 5 years. Uhuru Kenyatta, you and William Ruto are birds of the same feather.
Ndugu yetu Uhuru Kenyatta, you have moral obligation to respect the office of the president. the office of William Samoe Ruto. Kama kuna ushauri unaweza patia rais, usimpatie kwa majukwaa. Unajua mahali William yuko, keti na yeye muongee, lakini si kwa kuanza kudharau ofisi ya rais.
We have not told Kenyans you are the problem. Tulikuwa tunajaribu kulipa madeni ambayo wewe ulikopa, na ingine ulikopa na ukaingiza kwa miradi yako ambayo inatumia pesa ya Kenya kama ile expressway.
Ati mtu anasema hizo nyumba hazina maana, ni bure sana. Yeye akiwa rais atachukua hiyo pesa arudishie wale ambao watakuwa wametoa, na hiyo nyumba aivunje.
Well, you have heard what the deputy president has come out like. Ametoka kutetea kazi ya rais William Ruto, and again also we have had several other leaders there coming out challenging the former president Uhuru Kenyatta for what they feel like he attacked the current president. Na umesikia ukisema kwamba baadhi ya mashida ambazo tunazozipitia kama Kenya ni kwa sababu ya the former president, sababu ya zile projects ambazo zingine alifanya, ama ni kwa sababu ya uongozi wake former president Uhuru Kenyatta. Remember, is it yesterday but one there was that delegates conference for the Jubilee Party, and that is where now the former president Uhuru Kenyatta did say a lot of things about the government, and one thing that came out was the issue of the neglect of some of the projects that he had started, citing this one for Linda Mama. Yeah, you remember wakati wa President Uhuru Kenyatta kulikuwa na Linda Mama, ambapo wamama walikuwa wanaweza kwenda kupata msaada wakati wa kujifungua bila malipo yoyote. So na akasema kwamba na tuko hapa hivi tukisukuma miradi ambayo haijakuwa tested. So sijui unazungumziaje, because we have had the leaders coming out kumtetea the current president William Ruto.
I think where Uhuru Kenyatta sits, I think he has taken too long to come out and speak on the issues that affect Kenyans. He has taken too long. I think it's now 3 years or 2 years. That should not be so, because he is among the few privileged Kenyans who have had a chance to lead this country, and he exactly knows the day-to-day running of this country, and he can say whether this country is headed in the wrong or right direction according to his opinion, explaining what he means by wrong or right direction. And it's not wrong for him to say that way, because even in the US, Harris Kamala was competing with Trump. Barack Obama came out full force campaigning for Kamala, and Trump won, and Barack still goes on and says his mind according to how he feels as a Democrat, how the country should be run, about USAID, about issues of federal funds, about immigration, about gun violence. He airs out his opinion. So Uhuru Kenyatta is absolutely exercising his democratic rights as a Kenyan. That is first. Second, let us not forget. I think we Kenyans sometimes forget so fast. I think Uhuru was among the very first people to warn us. I think Wakenya wanasema alituwarn. But majority of the Kenyans were not listening, because just as he said yesterday, it was taken in the political context that he never wanted the current president to inherit his seat as president of the republic. But 3 years down the line, we are seeing that systems which were working were replaced by systems which are not working perfectly. Linda Mama was working. There was no absolute time I had members of the religious community or RUFA, the Rural Hospital Association,
yes,
or private hospitals saying that this Linda Mama package is not working. That means it was working. So if it was working, why was it replaced in the first place? American says, if it is working, why fix it? So Uhuru Kenyatta is just pointing out that it is high time we realize that we made a mistake as Kenyans, and if we cannot be able to correct it right now before 2027, we should be able to correct it before 2027. But what Uhuru Kenyatta is not coming out clearly is, which is the alternative? Yes. I think yesterday he spoke on a wide range of issues, but he didn't give us an alternative of William Ruto. I think Kenyans were expecting him to give, because
come out with a solution.
Yes, a solution in terms of who is going to fix this country.
Well, but I think towards the end he talked about Jubilee being the way to go.
Jubilee,
is it something to do with Jubilee being the way to go?
I don't. That was not the answer Kenyans were looking for. The answer Kenyans were looking for, who is the person? I think yesterday I never saw Matiang'i being given the highlights. He's the only presidential candidate around Jubilee,
yes,
but it looked like they are not endorsing him per se, and I'm asking why. I also saw the other opposition leaders keeping off the Jubilee NDC. I think that is a wrong move if our ultimate goal is to take out President William Ruto.
That is if that is the ultimate goal. Well, let's hear what Kidi has to say about that statement.
The statement by President Kenyatta?
Well, we've had a lot has been said by the different leaders. Actually, let me quote what the DP. Okay, let me just point out DP. DP has said something about the leadership, why the former president is coming out to criticize the current leadership, yet he should be. I mean, yet some of the problems that the country is going through, it's because it is through him.
Dada Patricia, I am a student of Niccolo Machiavelli. When in his book The Prince, he says the fool does at last what he should have done at first. I take the criticism of the former members of the Jubilee administration who are now out here playing saint and attacking President Kenyatta. Because to a large extent, I will tell you, one, I have the good fortune of having never voted for President Kenyatta. Not to suggest that I know better, but because from the very beginning, since 2013, I was going to the ballot for the first time in 2013. I didn't vote for President Kenyatta. Because even as a young little boy then, I didn't believe that President Kenyatta had a vision that we could rally around. By the time of his first 5 years, this country was already tied up to mind-blowing or mind-boggling debt. The bulk of this mess that this country is dealing with happened with either the encouragement or participation of some of these people's involvement. They have got no right at all to pretend that they are removing a speck in the eyes of President Kenyatta while there is a whole log in their own eyes. Let them spare us the pretense. Secondly, President Kenyatta, in his failure, in what we would call less than elegant track record in management of the Commonwealth, but there are things he managed to get done, and one of them was Linda Mama. As my brother has eloquently said, that when you don't fix it when it's not broken. Look at the debt portfolio that the NHIF had. I think it was around 9 billion, but we spent 104 billion just to put up the system. Secondly, look at how the healthcare providers are crying at SHA, a cry that they did not tell us during NIF. So at least NIF was working. Then they have told us that those service providers are only crying because ostensibly they were fake hospitals. If they were fake hospitals, are they the same people who had fake schools where they were sending a lot of money? I mean, let them spare us all these excuses. So as the people of Kenya, there are things we must not prevaricate on. One of them is that President Kenyatta, as a former head of state, still reserves the right to comment on the political trajectory and direction of this country, and he is not owe it to the people manning the state right now, to treat them with kid gloves and affection and all that. I don't think so. So we must not attempt to stifle the right of President Kenyatta to speak about the direction of this country. Let us disagree with him on what he says. Let us say that President Kenyatta, while you were at the helm, you presided over this and you're telling us this. But his right to speak, I had one of the senators from the Rift Valley speaking very arrogantly towards President Kenyatta. I want to request the leaders of this country that they must remember that in Swahili they are the kilelezo. The young people are watching. As Chinua Achebe once observed, that when the mother cow chews cud, the calf watches its mouth. As young leaders, we are watching the mouth of the mother cow. We are requesting them to chew the cud properly, so that we do not inherit their bad habits. Thank you.
I think I want to pick up from where he has left, and I've just realized that I think in Uhuru Kenyatta's submission yesterday, he was very categorical on how he chose to tackle the political establishment of the day. When he started the speech, he started off cuff. Then he said, "Bring me the written speech so that I cannot be misquoted." And all what he said was written, and I think that was purposeful, because as a former president and as a civil man, I didn't see him attack the current administration the way I have seen today Aaron Cheriot and some leaders around attack him back.
Yeah.
I think the leaders on the other side are going so personal with Uhuru Kenyatta, yet Uhuru went so civil with them, telling them that you guys, you need to fix this country, and you think you need to do better than I did, because I left some systems working and you replace them, saying that the systems you're bringing, they are better than mine, yet they're not working.
They're not working.
So even in the exchange, the current government is losing it when they go so personal with Kenyatta. I think they should explain to us why we had to abandon the whole NHIF, the whole funding model, and replace it with systems which are not working. That is the point I want to drive home.
Well, I think what they really need to look into is just the message, because I think the message was quite clear when the president was saying, and gave out an example. The former president gave out an example ya kitu ambacho tunajua, linda mama. That is something that really worked, and people were so happy about it. Now it really benefited so many mothers in this beautiful country, Kenya. Yeah, it really worked for people. So now I think, questioning why you had to remove this and put in a system that is not working, that has not been tested. I think it was just giving them a challenge that in future, if you are to start a new project, if you are to start introducing something, it is important to try. It is important to test first before you bring it to the entire country, because health is a very critical issue. It's a very critical thing in our country. So saying that we are using a system that is not working, that is sending sick people home, that is making us lose our loved ones because they cannot get treatment, again, is something that is not pleasant. And again, also, the cabinet secretary, maswala ya health pia, wajua kila wakati yakitokea, of course ametetea SHA mara nyingi sana, kwamba inafanya kazi kwamba inafanya kazi na mara nyingi pia ukiangalia, pia ukitoka kule nje uzungumze na Wakenya, pia wapo Wakenya ambao watakwambia kwamba SHA inafanya kazi vizuri sana, na wapo wengine ambao watakwambia kwamba haifanyi. So I feel like kama kuna wale ambao SHA imefanya kazi kwao, I think the government just now has that responsibility to see where could the problem be.
I think let me just cut you short.
Okay.
I think the cabinet secretary, I don't know if Kidi can agree with me on this. He's the right man for that job politically. Because the previous cabinet secretaries, there was Nahumicha and we had this other lady. They were seeing SHA is not working, and they could agree silently that SHA is not working. But Duale is one. I think he uses the principle of propaganda of Joseph Goebbels, the German Nazist, that if you tell a lie so very many times, it looks like the truth. So he's shouting at the topmost of his voice that SHA is working, so that if Kidi or you, Patricia, you've not gone to the hospital for the last 1 month, you assume that SHA is working. But to date, when SHA was being introduced, they told us that the mamambogas and the people in the low cadre who are paying by themselves, they'll be paying per month. Then, after some while, they said you pay a whole year. And if not paid a whole year, there's no service you are receiving. So is SHA working if a mamamboga cannot pay a whole year for SHA? They told us that the primary health care is going to be free in the SHA regime. And the primary health care has got to be solved at the lower levels of the hospital. You don't have to go to level 4 or level 5 to treat malaria. But we are asking, we go to those level 2, level 3, which are mostly run by counties. Are there drugs in those? Are there doctors? You find them, there are no doctors. So the common mwananchi who has malaria is forced to go to level 4 and he is turned back. What happens? They either heal by the grace of God or, unfortunately, they die.
That's unfortunate.
So I think Duale is one man that, and we've seen him actually talk rudely even to journalists who question, who raise legit questions about SHA. So I think he's one of the cabinet secretaries whom we as Kenyans should call him out, and he should know that he sits there courtesy of us Kenyans. It is not a position that he bought, or he's not the only Kenyan who can sit there. And we've had very many cabinet secretaries who have come and gone. He should know that this country will exist even after him. So we should fix the system so that the children of his children can find a better system.
Wow, that's fair enough. Well,
I spoke extensively on SHA last time.
Yes.
I beg to plead the fifth today.
Okay, yeah, this week.
But I endorse fully the brilliant submission by my brother, the early alumni, Dr. Makotsi.
Thank you.
Well, this week in Machakos County, I think there was a case that was ongoing. MCS wanted to impeach was it the speaker? let me confirm from Machakos County. Yeah, there was an issue of impeachment. They wanted to impeach this Ann Kiosia, and they were given a go-ahead for the impeachment because, of course, she had gone to bar them from continuing to impeach her. So the other day, they were just given that nod to proceed with the impeachment. Let's converse a bit about impeachment by our MCS in these county governments. Do you think sometimes it is justified?
I've been a keen follower of impeachments of especially governors since Wambora time to the recent Kericho governors. I've not been a keen follower of impeachments of the speakers. But every time there is a consistent happening that the successful impeachments that have been done have not been done because the MCS did a good job in impeaching the governor at the county assembly. Most of the times, these impeachments are faced with what we call preliminary objections at the Senate. And it speaks to one issue I think about it, I wrote about it. Are our county assemblies competent enough to handle devolution? And I wrote, these are my thoughts, that when somebody wants to be governor, most of the time, even the citizens, they look at a person who is well educated. Of course, they demand that they should have a degree. And most of the time, people brand themselves that I've been a CEO, or I've run a constituency very well, or I have been a senator, I'm a senior counsel. But on the other side, when one wants to be an MCA, people tend to lower their qualifications to a person maybe who is a neighbor or part of their clan, and they end up electing somebody maybe who is not very well educated to oversight somebody who is very sharp. For example, my current governor is an FCPA. FCPA means you are one of the finest accountants.
Sure.
Even the first governor of Kakamega, one of the finest accountants. But some of the members of the county assembly cannot interpret financial statements. Take it down. When we want to hire chief officers or CEC, we place their very high qualifications that you have to have a degree or a master's, 10 years experience. But those who are oversighting them on the other side, we tend to lower the qualifications. Same case, when we want to hire somebody like a county attorney, and when we want to hire maybe the majority leader, those are a whole different ball games. So these impeachments have suffered these consequences because of something called incompetence in our county assemblies. I think we need to do more. And in cases where we elect leaders who are not really qualified educationally to interpret or do oversight, I think there should be more of capacity building.
True.
Because I don't understand why the Kericho County Assembly had a preliminary objection, I think 2 times, on counting votes in the county assembly. Counting votes is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could not agree whether we are doing manual voting or, I don't know, online voting. So it speaks to the way our MCA sometimes are used to settle political scores. And it goes further, and it was an issue raised by the same MCS when they were pushing for salary increment. You find a governor earning around 800,000, MCA 120,000. So you're oversighting a person who earns $1 million and you're earning how sure are we the person earning $1 million cannot come down and give you whichever X amount of money so that the things he wants them to pass, they pass absolutely. So I think our county assemblies need more capacity building in cases where we find ourselves that we have elected very good leaders who do not really understand how the county works. Because like Kakamega, 13 billion. Nairobi, 44 billion. If we don't have the right people to oversight 44 and 13 billion, I think all that money will go in the trenches.
And we'll always be complaining, asking ourselves, how did we get here? Tulifikaje hapa? Akidi, what do you have to say? Because I was looking at the qualifications of an MCA in Kenya, na nimeona pale hivi tumesema tu a registered voter. Yes, someone who, unless disqualified under clause 2, a person is eligible for election as a member of a county assembly if the person is a registered voter. Yes, if satisfies any educational, moral and ethical requirements as prescribed by this constitution or an act of parliament, and if is either nominated by a political party or an independent candidate supported by at least 500 registered voters in the concerned ward.
My brother Makotsi has struck the bullseye, because when you speak about how the county assemblies, the counties generally are run, is that you realize that the governor has got enormous resources and power at his disposal. This enormous power is not matched by the power of the county assembly. So the governor himself can even determine who ends up elected as a speaker.
Yes.
So then the speaker, who is in charge of the assembly, is at the beck and call of the governor. And that is why I think the president signed into law there were 2 laws that the president signed into law, bills that the president signed into law last month, that in a small way is going to give the counties a bit of financial autonomy from the hand of the governor. That is, in a small way, in my view, going to enhance how the county assemblies are run. Look at how the amendment we previously did, and we also need to do another amendment to the PFM Act, because we said that in the event that the counties have not passed the budget, the governor can spend up to, I think, 40% of the money, and then as he still negotiates with the MCAs on the budget. What this does is that the governor has got resources to then induce members of the county assembly to even pass a budget that does not appreciate the priorities of the county, because he has got political mouths to then take care of. I think that way, that imbalance of power is actually what is affecting our counties. Governor having so much power that the MCAs cannot check him. And as Lord Atcon once told us, that power corrupts.
Absolute.
But absolute power
corrupts absolute.
Very good.
But what is your take on the level of education? Because what Alfred is saying somehow really affects the oversight work that the MCAs are doing to these other leaders.
But I am a believer that people who are manning public institutions must be the very best, the finest. We are here and we can only speak about these issues because we understand the intricacies. There is a mistake, and it is being perpetuated in part by the political class, of propping up people without education, but then who are loud in the streets. We have seen how the political class sometimes encourage these people. It is what Mahmoud Mamdani calls I'm forgetting the word that Mahmoud Mamdani calls it, but it is where a governance structure lifts up the most foolish to govern over everyone else. It was started by the Muzungu, that if Muzungu wanted a leader for the natives, he would elevate the most violent, the most pliant, and by pliant, someone who is willing to use to oppress the people. We have seen at the assembly, the MCAs, even here in Nairobi, where some of the dominant parties give tickets to people who cannot tell their political left from their right. The intention is that wewe na hiyo kizungu yako, wewe kanje. You kaa nje because you are able to interrogate issues and ask questions. I appeal to the people of Kenya that they must appreciate politics for what it is. The power to distribute the cost and benefits of public policy. We cannot give that power to people who do not appreciate even our regulatory framework. If someone you elect does not understand the regulatory framework, they are unable to oversight the person who is wielding power. As we elect our representatives, let us remember that those people determine what kind of societies we live in. Thank you.
Let me just pick it up from where he has left. I've just remembered. I think you guys are a keen followers of the Public Accounts Committee chaired by Honorable Senator Otieno Kajwang. When you hear the conversations between his committee and the governors, the questions he's asking,
yes,
out of the Auditor General's report, the Auditor General is seated there, the Control of Budget is seated there, the governor or the count with his CECs plus the chief officers, relevant questions raised, seated.
They're seated.
The members are seated.
Yes.
The kind of questions they ask, sometimes the governors are unable to answer. These are the kinds of questions we should not be asking at Senate. We should be asking at the lower level, because all these offices are represented at the lower levels.
True.
All these reports are written so that they can be interrogated at the lower levels. Even some of the issues that the Honorable Committee Senator Kajwang says, they're able to be interrogated clearly if MCAs are the ones interrogating. Because if the issues about projects, the projects exist in the wards. So the quality of the MCAs affects so much the development of the county. You remember in Makueni, in the last dispensation, it took Governor Kivutha Kibwana 2 years to make the MCAs understand that he is the governor, and what they need to do is just to oversight him. The MCAs were on his neck because he could not find something to give them so that they feel good as they're doing their duties.
I remember it was really chaotic, yes. And of course it was the first time that we were seeing this kind of the impeachment by the MCAs. I think it was the first one, right? In the country.
It did come to it
did
came
not reach to
it
the
came
point.
to something Governor Kivutha was willing to do, dissolution of the county.
Yes, something that we had not even experienced before, but of course we were just we were too early in devolution actually.
Yes, but what I was calling, I have found it. Professor Mahmoud Mamdani, by the way, it is his son who is running to become the New York mayor.
Wow.
Zoran Mamdani. Yes, Professor Mahmoud Mamdani was a serious thinker in the 80s and 90s. And the system I was referring to, he calls it decentralized despotism. In the decentralized despotism is where the colonial authorities would elevate certain chiefs particularly in the rural areas, to enforce customary law. But these chiefs were not accountable to the people. They were accountable to the colonial government. And so in the instances where the colonial government wanted them to collect taxes, wanted to suppress the people, wanted to oppress the people, they were at hand. We have seen this being replicated where people who do not know better, particularly at the MCA level, at the MP level, are being propped up by the established political forces to then rule over the people. So that, for instance, the role of an MCA, as is the role of the MP, is to represent, legislate, and oversight. When you elect an MP on the account that he has akili ya kuzaliwa, we do not to be able to oversight, you must be able to, for instance, appreciate the Public Finance Management Act. That is why the 11th Parliament did a great injustice on this country by making sure that PFM Act was amended to give the CS Treasury the leeway to spend people's money borrowed from abroad the way the CS wanted. And as a consequence, today we are speaking eloquently about odious debt. It is about MPs who are unable to discharge their responsibility. We must tell the people of Kenya that truth. Thank you.
This is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
But when you look at all the statistics, it shows that the Nyanza region is leading in all the vices, which is otherwise called the triple threat. And we asked him to help us in advocacy, to help us in sensitization, because the war against triple threat is a war that must be tackled by every member of the society. We are requesting for more funds. We are requesting for more visibility. We are requesting the whole country to join us, not only the president.
If your mind is always thinking of how I'm looking at this girl's legs, and you also, and even as women nowadays, we go and confuse. Sini ukweli? Yes, we also confuse our young ones, and we want to show him all these things. So it's both sides, by the way. I'm not saying femicide is on, but it is more on the side of women being violated.
About security now, where Interior Cabinet Secretary.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Patricia Waiua. And this is your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation. Generation Report.
Well, we are back with the issue of gender-based violence na pia masuala ya femicide ambayo tumeona kwamba yamekithiri sana katika nchi yetu, by the way. Na umesikia hiyo moja ambayo inazungumzia masuala ya kule Kisumu, tukitaja masuala ya femicide, tukitaja masuala ya gender-based violence. We have a case that is already in court right now. I think we all saw that clip which was making rounds on social media and even in media stations. Yes, we saw what was happening. We saw those brothers, allegedly brothers, that they were brutally attacking their sister because she refused. Apparently she refused to get married to the man they wanted her to be married to, and then this really did not sit well with just everyone in the society, and one of them was arrested. And of course, we are expecting that the rest will also be arrested and justice will be served. So I do not know, what is your take about gender-based violence? Because it is a fight that we all are in it. We are really trying to fight gender-based violence, which really drags the country behind. So I don't know, what is your take, Kidi? Let me start with you.
If you look at what is called, what the Constitution anticipates to be the sources of law, the first source of law in this country is the Constitution itself. The second source of law is an act of Parliament and the subsidiary legislations. The third source of law is equity. The fourth source of law is what we call customs and practices. But I think it is Article 3 of the Constitution that also gives out a clear warning that customs and cultural practices that are inconsistent with the Constitution are null and void to the extent of the inconsistency. When I saw the clip yesterday, I saw the amount of physical violence meted on that young lady. I saw her crying out for help towards some older man, and I wonder what happened to humanity. If you see some violence meted on TV, you want to break TV and intervene. But this man, yes, this man is there physically, and you see he is unmoved. I think that the full force of the law must prevail and make sure that such depraved individuals in our midst must be rounded up, must be taken to court. Let them get what they deserve, the full force of the law. A violence of such nature is unpermissible. We cannot tolerate, and we must punish it so severely that anyone, anywhere, thinking to perpetuate it in the name of culture must think twice.
Let me ask you, do you think the efforts that we have been making, the country has been making, we have so many people participating in this, even the government itself, we have so many stakeholders pushing for this vice to end. Do you think these communities or these places where we are seeing such things, do they have any information? Has the campaign really reached there?
Well, part of why I'm saying that we must first, at the first port of call, we must treat it as a security issue. We must treat it as a law enforcement issue, is because of how the rights of that lady were violated. As a deterrence measure, let the full force of the law prevail against the perpetrators. But as a sustainable measure, then we must continue to make sure that we empower the peer educators. We must get young Maasai men to become ambassadors of cultural change and let them remind their peers, their fellow Morans, that you do not beat a woman like that in the name of wanting your sister to get married. If anything, the land, which of course was the grazing land, is today so subdivided that there is no place for grazing.
True.
So I think that mind change is important. We can only do it when we have got people, young Morans who have gone to school, taking up that initiative. I hope that fine Maasai men, like the former presidential candidate Olelenku, my friend Governor, not Olelenku, Ole Kiapi, my friend Governor Olelenku, people like Mizek, and other people whose names I should not mention on this show,
yes,
should take charge, mentor young men, and send them into the community as ambassadors for cultural change. Thank you.
Well, do you think this gender-based, the issue of gender equality or equity, we have taken too much to empower the young girl who knows her rights? You see, they know their rights. They know that I need not to be forced to get married to this man because I can choose the kind of a man I want to settle with. Do you think that kind of empowerment also the young men also need to have it?
And that was my point. I want first to join Kidi in condemning the incident and urging that the full force of the law should take its course as soon as possible. And justice delayed is justice denied. But I want to agree with you that since the issue of gender-based violence came into place, we focused more on the women. And we thought the problem was maybe the women didn't know.
Let me cut you short.
It's 9 o'clock.
Radio generation, the sound is fine. Pump it up, turn it high all the time. Let the music move you, let's sway. Radio G's got your jam all day.
Radio Generation, the home of urban soul. This week, power was tested in the corridors of leadership, economies shook under pressure, and the voices of ordinary citizens demanded to be heard. From breaking decisions in high office to protests in the streets, from moments of triumph to tragedies that stopped us in our tracks, these are the headlines that shaped our week. And beyond the noise, we search for what really matters, the connections, the context, the stories behind the stories. Introducing Patricia Wayoa, and this is your weekly news roundup on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
But when you look at all the statistics, it shows that the Nyanza region is leading in all the vices, which is otherwise called the triple threat. And we asked him to help us in advocacy, to help us in sensitization, because the war against triple threat is a war that must be tackled by every member of the society. We are requesting for more funds. We are requesting for more visibility. We are requesting the whole country to join us, not only the president.
If your mind is always thinking of how I'm looking at these girls' legs, and you also, and even as women nowadays, we go and confuse. Sini ukweli? Yes, we also confuse our young ones, and we want to show him all these things. So it's both sides, by the way. I'm not saying femicide is on, but it is more on the side of women being violated.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Patricia Wayoa, and this is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
And yes, we are back. This is Radio Generation, the home of hard truth and bold insights. If you want to tune in Nairobi, it is 88.8. Kule Pwani, kule Mombasa, 90.7. Watongo wa Pwani jamani, mmeshindaje? Mmeshindaje? I hope kwamba mnategea kipindi. Vile hapa, okay, for those of you who are outside those regions, you want to tune in, unaweza ingia pale kwenye tofuti yetu ambayo ni rgk.co.ke. By the way, ukiingia pale utaingia kwa mtandao wetu online. You'll be listening online and on our social media platforms, kule X, Facebook, kule YouTube, Radio Gen KE. Msikilizaji, unaweza kutupata shwari kabisa. Tumesema kwamba hapa hivi tunaangalia habari ambazo ziligonga vichwa vya habari yani habari ambazo ziligonga vichwa vya habari kila mahali, zimekuwa katika mitandao. Ni zile zenye tunajua kwamba tukizungumzia hapa kwa njia moja au nyingine tutakuwa tunapata suluhu, ama tutakuwa tunasaidia kuhakikisha kwamba nchi yetu na sisi kama Wakenya tunaishi vizuri. Na kabla tuende kwenye break, we were talking about gender based violence. We were talking of these unequal opportunities in terms of empowering the two genders, the two main genders.
Yes.
Let me say the two main genders. Yeah, because a lot of energy,
yes,
has been put on the girl child.
Yes.
That is for that is true, yeah. Yes, that a lot of energy like ilieko kwenye girl child, and now this boy child, I usually feel like they've not been empowered to live with an empowered girl.
Exactly.
Yes, the boys have not been empowered to live with an empowered girl. Kumbuka kwamba msichana atakwenda shule, atakwenda anasoma, na kule hivi kila mtu anaambiwa rights zake. Anajua mimi saa hizi sifai kulazimishwa kuingia katika ndoa na mtu ambaye simtaki. Unaona? no forced marriages. So kama msichana anajua hivi, lakini kuna kijana ambaye katika ile jamii ambaye hajui.
Yes.
Hajafundishwa jinsi ya kuishi na huyu msichana. So you find that there is a crisis. And there was something that you wanted to add on in terms of the empowerment. So you can go ahead.
Yes, and that was my point. I was saying that we focus so much on the girl child, and every time these conversations were being told in the communities and even in the cities, it was, we are bringing women together, and these women, we are going to tell them their rights, we're going to empower them, and the boy child and the men were being left out of the conversation. So we are having a generation of educated, empowered women who know their rights, but we are having also a population of men who are educated, but they are still stuck in some cultural norms that are things that they should not be even existing. But because of, we did not have a change of mindset, and this change of mindset was given to the girl child or to the women. So I think in the conversation of GBV, we should carry all genders along together. The same way we have a community organization empowering women, they should have a few men or even a quarter of them to carry the message home. It is proper for me to tell Kidi that what you're doing is wrong, rather than maybe the person is doing the wrong to tell him. So if we have more empowered men to understand that these are cultural norms that are in the past, this issue would be gone in very few years. I think that is the solution to this. But I am not seeing the government doing enough to end this. We had very many cases of gender-based violence in the recent past, and women reps plus women leaders were called to State House, and the president committed, I think, 100 million. I don't know if that 100 million ever did anything. First of all, if it was ever. The last debate I remember, the women reps were arguing whether they should have a common budget or they should have, each of them should have their own budget to manage. So I don't
you see
know.
how people are looking at resources. They're not looking at the outcome. They're not looking at what should be under my control.
Yes. So the government should do more, especially now that we're having a pullback of the funds from USAID. You see, USAID used to do a lot of this sensitization back in the communities. I'm just imagining if this is a case where somebody maybe took out the phone and recorded and sent to a WhatsApp group, and it went viral to a point where we are discussing it on radio. That means there are some cases which somebody maybe recorded, did not send, or somebody was beaten in a home setup and it was treated as normal. So the chiefs, the assistant chiefs, the village elders should do more of reporting these cases, and stern punishment should be put in place through the legal system, so that it deters others from doing the same acts. I think we cannot have all the resources to do empowerment, but we have already the system to punish. And punishment is a deterrence. If we focus more on the empowerment part, I think the resources may not be enough. But where we have the resources, let us carry all the genders. But the most important thing, the government should go to the lowest level to make sure that these cases are singled out and punished.
That's fair enough. Kidi, do you have anything to add?
Intelligent or unintelligent?
whichever way.
Well, I think that in the question of the politics of the sexes, I think that having spent the better part of the last 30 years speaking about women empowerment, we must also appreciate that particularly if we speak about this instant scenario where of men meting violence against that lady, I think that is primarily a security issue, and it must be dealt with as such. But over and above that, we must also look at how giving opportunity or greater opportunity to women than men has also disoriented the family unit. I come from a center-right political party. One of the core beliefs of a center-right political party is in the supremacy of the family unit as the most critical organizing unit. As such, part of why we are keener on government availing opportunities, particularly to young people, is that so that young men are able to start families, so that it means that they can be able to protect these families, that children grow up in an environment where there is a mom and dad. I hope that our government, acting in the best interest of the citizens of this country, will ensure that we do not lose the family unit. Thank you.
Well, I think that is fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough. In the course of the week, I also saw I'm looking at that recording. I saw the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission warning MCS of a demand for tenders in wards. Hili ni jambo lingine ambalo I think limekita mizizi katika hizi ward zetu katika counties, whereby we are giving tenders to relatives, to our close friends, which is really affecting business at the county level. So I don't know what is your view on that? EACC came out by the and warned this issue of MCS wanataka kama ni tenders zinatoka pale katika county, wao wapate their close relatives, their families, their friends, wao wapate zile tenders. I don't know, and I don't understand what really happened to the conflict of interest.
Let me speak to that. I think tonight's show, I'm going to be very ruthless on MCS, because I feel that they are the bulk of the leadership of this country, and if they get it wrong, I think majority, the major part of this country is going to head in the wrong direction. Because first of all, we elect them to oversight, legislate and represent, expecting to get a tender or do the executive role, which is supposed to be the governor's role, is something out of the blues. But at the same time, I am looking at them as people who are in need of resources to do their politics. And this should speak to the next generation of leaders who want to vie for MCA. You should know that MCA is not as lucrative as you think. If you want money, go into the private sector, do business.
Do business.
Yes. This is purely about public service. In fact, for an MCA, it is like you are serving the community for free. And it is not wrong to serve the community for free. You should be willing to accept that you are elected to represent your people. And you should be able to have bold conversations with also the people who elected you. If that is the mindset we want to create to the people, that when somebody wakes up to your door next morning and asks for school fees, tell him school fees and bursary is governor's function. My function is, if you've not gotten the bursary, I am able to represent, oversight and legislate so that you get it.
Check where the money is.
Yes, check where the money is. So the current crop of MCS is, I think, has lost it. When they are given small monies to impeach the speaker and the governor, and in cases where they demand for tenders, I think this country will head in the worst direction if we continue the same way.
But wait a minute, you know, when you say when they are given small monies to impeach who and who, whatever they are doing is just a reflection of what is also happening in the national government. I think most of the time we keep on saying that it's like we devolved corruption, we devolved those bad manners, we devolved a lot of vices.
Yes, and I can't agree with you more, because actually the corruption is happening from the upper level to the devolved level. But the thing that pains me is that the MCS are the bulk. I think there are 1,450 members of county assembly. If each one of them demands a bribe every day, the level of corruption will escalate so much. So the thing is about the numbers, that we have to cure this because of the numbers. I'm not saying none of them are corrupt, but if the culture is entrenched in the system, that if you are an MCA, the governor has to pay you something so that a bill is passed or something is implemented. He has to give you a tender. It means we are going to have 1,450 times 10 tenders. Those are 10,000 cases of corruption. You see, my problem is about the numbers, not the corruption. The corruption is all over. But if we have this MCS ethically correct in oversighting or discharging their mandate, the level of corruption will go down by 50% in terms of numbers. Yes. I don't know about the amounts, but in terms of number, the cases.
The cases.
Yes.
Well, but okay, the cases down there might be many, but the cases that are up here, few but very big. We might be dealing with only few cases up here in the national level, and a lot of cases down there at the county levels. But now the margin in terms of the amounts.
Yes. And that is where I come in, because if we're able to cure this at the lower level, it means EACC will have an easy time to sort out these 290 MPs or 300 and something MPs plus Senate plus cabinet secretaries. But at this time we are having, I don't know if EACC has the capacity to investigate the accounts, the M-Pesa, the procurement of even 50% of members of county assembly. I think they'll be overwhelmed, and that is where the corruption at the upper level will become even a thing we cannot deal with. So we should be worried because of the numbers of the cases which can emanate from this number of MCs, because they are leaders in their own right.
Yeah.
And they hold, Kidi said the governor holds power, but they hold so much power that sometimes they threaten as a unit to impeach the governor. So the governor sometimes is forced to sort out by tenders.
Actually, that is what
Yes.
EACC was warning about. Kidi, what's your take on this?
Well, in regards to corruption, my approach is different, because I come from a fishing community where we say fish rots from the head. In regards to corruption,
it's true.
In regards to corruption, I still believe that we need to have a commander-in-chief who is willing to invest his political capital in the fight against corruption. Because of the things that were said, and I'm not responding to the issue about the MCS directly, I'm responding to the question of how I feel corruption should be fought in this country generally. I believe that corruption is domiciled largely in government procurement. That is where you get what you call both grand and small corruption. Sometimes, and I have seen members of the online mujahideen of this administration saying that we have not had a mega corruption scandal since this government came in. Well, it is the small corruption. It is the 20 billion edible oil scandal. It is the small monies that is pinched from e-citizen. It is a small corruption put together that then you realize that the country is leaking. I still believe that if we have a commander-in-chief who will invest his political capital in fighting corruption at the top, where we see the question of lifestyle audit and meaningful lifestyle audit, yes, they're not PR, where we are able to look at companies, the registration documents, so that one, there is the legal directors. Then we also look at the beneficiaries, because the way companies are registered in this country, I am Kidimwaga, and radio generation is a business, and I am high up in government. So then I have my brother Makotsi,
yes, a co-director,
appearing as a director, while I am the one essentially doing business. That is something that if we have a president who invests his capital in fighting it, we can fight it. The third thing is that when we talk about devolved corruption, it is all, of course, the bad manners that we used to practice over here. When we are in a place where we do not use corruption to fix political competition, we will put material dent in the war against corruption. And let me give you an example. In the period in 2015, as President Obama was coming, we wanted to appear in the eyes of the international community that we were fighting corruption. And the CSS were asked to go home. Well, all of them, I think, somehow made their way back. And even those who didn't make their way back, we didn't prosecute them intelligently. So we ended up destroying their career without substantiating. And I think that is unjustifiable. Another example, in 2018, and this is dicey because people who are responsible are now holding powerful offices in this country. If you can't find me after this show, you can start freaking
nothing will happen. We are just objective. By the way, we are just speaking facts. Yes.
There was this thing we used to call Kamata Kamata Fridays.
Yes.
Kamata Kamata Fridays was a classical case of using the law, the criminal justice system, under the guise of fighting corruption to fix politics. Because all those people we arrested on Fridays and took to court, and the biggest work their lawyers did was bail application. After bail application, we didn't hear anything else. So it therefore means that Kamata Kamata Fridays was being used to sell fear to certain people within the political class that you either fall in the line or we will show you who wields the big stick. That is, I think, how we have missed out on the war against corruption. Part of why some of us are frustrated with President William Ruto is because we feel that for a man who looked like a very brave man and had capacity to take on the entrenched political interests that are perpetuating corruption, he came in and engaged in, for lack of a better word, I would call pussyfooting. I still pray that the head of state would wake up and meaningfully engage in the war against corruption beyond the prosecution of my former governor that we see going on. Thank you.
Well, this has reminded me of what, is it 2 months ago, just like 1 month ago,
yes,
when the president came out and spoke about these issues of corruption, and especially in the National
Assembly.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and when he did that,
yes,
a lot of there came a lot of noise.
Yes.
a lot of noise. Others saying that whoever is saying that they are fighting corruption, we are supposed to start with them.
And by the way,
you remember, I remember that there was a lot of discourse almost everywhere. Everybody was against what the president had started. You want to add something?
Let me say something before I bring in my brother Makotsi.
Yes.
Corruption and the war against corruption is close to my heart. I work with young people daily, Dada Patricia, and I see how young people are locked out of opportunity. People graduated in their 20s are now in their mid-30s, have never held a job for a single day.
That's true.
And a proper job. And it is not for lack of trying. It is because there is no opportunity. Brilliant young men and women are stuck in gig economy. In 2015, when Honorable Babu Namwamba, then as chairman of Public Accounts Committee, was investigating some 28 billion that had ostensibly been misused while President Kibaki was exiting, he came back and told us that, oh, gentlemen, by the way, it was not 28 billion in question, it was only 2.8 billion. But then quickly, he ran into political headwinds and he told us it was corruption fighting back. In the case of President William Ruto, it could have been the case of corruption fighting back. You know, I am not fan of the president because I feel he has let young people down, and maybe, but then I think that was a good message. But see, it died out. He didn't follow through. He didn't stick to his guns. But I think that the biggest den of corruption in this country is National Assembly. The biggest political letdown in this country is National Assembly. Actually, part of the work we do at Interparties is to make sure that we build capacity of brilliant, intelligent, ethical young people like my brother Makotsi here.
Yes.
To make sure that we occupy parliament and occupy from within. Never again do we want our young people occupying parliament from outside, becoming casualties in the hands of law enforcement agencies. We want to make sure that we build their capacity, that we engage in political competition through mainstream political processes, and make sure that some of these MPs who have let the country down, who did not have the presence of mind in 2024 to tell the president that we cannot pass this finance bill as is because the country is unable to absorb it. We would have averted the chaos that we saw. But because some of these MPs, we are told, are accepting as little as 10,000. You remember during the last administration, we were told that they took up to as little as 10,000 to clear a report where Kenyans had been consuming mercury. I think we must take the war where we need to take it, and that is the National Assembly and the Senate. Thank you.
I think I want to pick up from where Kidi has left. It was last month when the president said that corruption is in parliament, and he asked the members that there was somebody who came and took our money. Did that money reach you? And they said no. EFCC being an independent commission, as powerful as it sounds, I think it could have picked up the issue. I don't blame the president. I don't blame the speaker or the members of parliament. I think EFCC would have taken that as a statement and question even the president himself. In mature democracies, somebody like the Prime Minister of UK or President Trump cannot say such allegations, especially when he's speaking to members of parliament. He'll be called by FBI or Senate or anybody who has the constitutional powers to question. And the president in that case is not above the law. The EFCC should have followed up with that statement and ask the president to provide the names of the members of parliament. If not, EACC should have done a proper investigation in parliament in cases where they suspect that corruption is involved. And it is all over. Even in the impeachment of the former deputy president Rigathi Gachagua, the cases were mentioned. Even on the finance bill, the cases were mentioned. Even in passing most of the controversial laws like SHA and housing levy, we've had members of parliament coming out of the house and saying those guys did pass this law because they were given this. We've had cases where governors have complained that I'm being grilled this badly because I've refused to hand out something to this committee. So the moment the EACC does not take the war into parliament, I think we lose the war against corruption entirely. Because if somebody takes or picks up 100,000 and nothing is being done, what prevents the policeman who earns 30,000 not to pick 100 shillings from a motorist along Gong Road?
Yes.
So we entrench this culture of corruption by simply sweeping this vice under the carpet whenever it is mentioned. And one thing I've seen that I do not wish that we go in that particular trend, former Governor Migori, I think for the longest time he has been on and off the courts. And recently I've heard or I've seen EACC and DPP communicating that we have come to a plea bargaining agreement and he has offered 2 cars, I don't know, a home in Lavington. We are selling and we are recovering this money. If that person is found guilty, why don't we recover everything we think he has stolen? Because that money belongs to Kenyans. Why should somebody steal 100 million, then he says, okay, I'm guilty, just take 50, then the rest of the 50, let me keep it. I think that is the wrong direction of fighting corruption, especially in a country where corruption is entrenched. Let me give you a classical example. China and Kenya. In 1949, we were at the same level economically. China chose the most inhuman way of fighting corruption.
Fighting corruption, yes.
Look at where they are.
Yeah.
Just look at where they are. We chose to put on gloves and pamper
corruption.
I bet some of the people whose jobs Kid says got over, people catwalking, they got elected in Kenya. When you're corrupt, I think you are now a celebrity. People can now vote you in the next election. You go and buy your way into the most popular party into your region and you get elected, simply because we did not let the prosecutory powers and we did not punish corruption at that level. I'm very sure if that cabinet secretary who stole money and was let off, let me resign, then she resigned. Then when
she went for lighter duties.
If she was punished the China way, we could not have been having corruption in that county where in her first term she was already being brought to EACC and Senate over corruption in that county. So we are entrenching corruption at the upper level and it's affecting the whole sector of the economy, impacting the young people Kidi Mwaga works with every single day.
Yeah, that really makes sense, and I like it. You pointed out that the corruption fights back, and I think that is one of the key issues that is really eating us.
We attribute that statement to Ababu na Mwamba.
Well, yeah, it is a statement that has always been there.
I'm
Of course, he
joking, of course.
okay. So I know, yeah, when corruption fights back, it is very hard. It is difficult to get to the goal. It's usually so difficult to get to the goal. And like what you're saying, if today people were really punished, like the way the China really does it, wajua mara nyingi sana watu wamekuwa wakisema kwamba is it EACC haina meno. Wakenya wamekuwa kihisi kwamba ni kama some of these bodies hawana meno.
I think when we come to grand corruption, I think we tend to sugarcoat it. Today, if a young man is frustrated and goes to Grogon or down River Road and picks a phone from a lady walking, and the lady shouts, "Muzi," I think that person will not be alive in the next 15 minutes.
True.
But if a cabinet secretary or a permanent secretary steals 50 million, I think he'll be alive. We'll be guaranteed that he'll be alive. I think the same way we treat the chicken thief in the village, the phone thief in the River Road, in the same way, because in the village we call huyu ni mwizi, but in upper offices we tend to sugarcoat it and say grand corruption. It is still thievery. Bado tu ni mwizi.
Well, anyway, you know, pia mob justice also is not allowed in our country because, of course, we have a law that we should we have the rule of of the law that we should observe, so which is quite important. But okay, we are left with 25 minutes, and I also want us to look at something to do with the UN. Kule tulisema mambo mengi yalisemwa kule, but kabla tufikie kule pia tumeona EACC pia this week also came out to investigate some issues also. I think this is also corruption issues of they came out to conduct a probe into the irregular hiring of doctors in Siaya County. Yeah, wasema kule barua zilikuwa zinatembea za kazi hata katika mikutano. While we know like employment letters, of course, there is a procedure. There is a procedure in employing someone into the government ama into whichever organization. Hizi barua za kupeana kwa matanga katika political rallies, yes, and so forth. So what EACC is doing, I think is good. We are waiting to see what comes out of that probe. Yeah, we are waiting as a country to see what really comes out of that probe. Another story that really is usually really traumatizing is the issue of the deaths in the kwa Bizarro kule Kilifi, and also the Shakahola menace. Let me just call it menace because whatever we witnessed there, it's usually so unfortunate that it is happening in the watch of a government. Yeah, that has everything. So there is a time I was really asking myself, like, kwani uko Shakahola, I mean, how vast is that forest such that a government cannot even use the drones, cannot use to just get all these people out of that place? Why is it that now we are still witnessing new deaths in the same manner? It's quite unfortunate. So there was a report about some churches being shut down because of failure to meet the requirements. Of course, it's just a matter of regulating the church, regulating the religious organizations. Let me call them organizations, yeah, kama makanisa, misikiti na kadhalika. So it is quite important as a country. So we are really supporting the government in ensuring that they are regulating this, because this is what really leads to radicalization, and most of the time this radicalization is leading to death. Yeah, the issue of cults. Mtu amekuja pale ameambiwa wewe fast, and then at the end of the day tunaenda mbinguni. That's so unfortunate. So let the government continue with their work. It is quite important because it's going to ensure that there is some.
But I've got something to say about that.
Okay.
Again, because of the work I do daily with young people, I interface more intimately with the security and law enforcement agencies, in part because we love this country deeply, all of us, and in spite of our political orientation or affiliation, primarily we are loyal to the country and to the flag. And therefore, one of the biggest threats today to our national security is the question of extremism, both extremism at religious level and extremism at political level. So before I go deeper, let me say from the outset that Kenyans have got particularly young Kenyans, have got a responsibility to reject every seduction from every extremist element, be it the extremist within the political scene of the far right or of the far left. Because one danger of extremism is how they give simplistic responses to societal challenges. Some of those oversimplistic answers are usually summed up into slogans and one-liners. And then it gives rise to the emergence of extremist elements. For instance, you know that in the last 2 years, the right to protest within the meaning of Article 37 to an extent had become weaponized. And as young people, we had engaged in the exercise of Article 37 as if Article 38 does not exist. We must remember, particularly as young people of this country, that Article 38 exists immediately after Article 37 so that meaningful transformative political change can be achieved, of course, through, among other things, mobilizing and organizing politically, running for office, joining political parties, supporting a candidate. And that is something we want young people to do. Radicalization within the religious context is much more trickier than radicalization within the political context.
Yeah.
It is trickier because everyone has got a right to conscience. You have got the right to believe in something, that you can believe that Kidimwaga is God, and there is nothing somebody else can tell you. And that one is beyond the reach of government. It is one of those areas where we do not allow the government to get into. And therefore, there are people who have taken advantage of the general disillusionment that is prevalent today, in part because of the internet penetration, the collapse of the family units, the increased individualism, so that we do not check on one another. The communal setup that existed or that we grew up in is largely broken. So as a consequence, when people are looking for something to believe in, they have sometimes run into the hands of these con artists posing as religious leaders. The consequence is what we saw or what we see in Shakahola and Kwabinzaro. As we collectively as a nation wrap our heads around this, I think that our intelligence agencies have got a greater role to play. Chiefs, assistant county commissioners, and the county commissioners
yes,
are usually our last mile apparatus of intelligence. I think to an extent they have let us down. Let them enhance their relationship with the people, the public, so that some of these things can be neutered in the bud. Thank you.
I think Kidi has explained it perfectly well, especially the last part which I wanted to speak to. It is the same way I spoke to Homa Bay Kasipul. This is the second time in the same area. Shakahola happened.
Yes.
Kwabinzaro is happening.
Yes.
What is happening with the security apparatus?
Yes.
Does it mean that there's no village elder in that area. There's no assistant chief. There's no chief. Does that mean that after Chakahola we let our guard down? We just said let those people live the way they want to live. I think there should be more care in cases where we've had this. If it was happening, let's say in Meru, I would say, okay, it's a new case, but it's around the same area, I believe so. So this is an issue that should be brought up, and the intelligence. I think we are. When Rigathi Gachagua was speaking about Nurdin, some people were made us believe that intelligence operations are beyond repute or beyond question. This is a question that Senate and Parliament should call Nurdin, should call the PS and the CS Interior to explain why it is happening for the second time. Secondly, we are seeing what's the name of that guy? Who was the Shakahola guy?
Kitakuramba.
Yes.
Mackenzie.
As far as I'm concerned, there's no conviction. What is happening? I think it is 1 year down the line. I think also justice delayed is still justice denied. We're having those cases because that guy is still, I believe he's still free. Right now, he's not guilty until proven guilty. So somebody can say that I am doing or continue doing whatever I'm doing because Mackenzie is still being prosecuted 3 years or 2 years down the line. The judicial system should dispense justice as soon as possible to deter future occurrences such as this Kwabinzaro.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, before we move to the United Nations news or story, I also want us to look at something to do with Africa. This week, Uganda's Uganda's President Museveni was cleared for re-election. So we are talking of 40 years in power. Yeah, 40 years is the age of some of us. Yeah, so by the time Kidi you were born,
yes,
Museveni was still the president of Uganda, and he's still mpaka sasa hivi. So the other day he was cleared for re-election. I also saw the opposition leader, this singer
Bobi Wine.
Yes, Bobi Wine was also cleared.
Yes.
Yeah, to run for the presidential elections.
Yes.
Which is, it's in 2026, right?
Yes,
2026.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, it should be in
Tanzania is this year.
Yes.
Uganda is next year.
Yes, Uganda is next year, and us we are next year, but one.
Yes.
Yeah, we are following each other there. So that is one thing that we also need to remember. I was also looking at there's some news here that really caught my attention about it's about some African countries coming out to just looking at some of the African countries. What happened to my...
You're looking at Malawi or what?
Yes. Yes.
One term Malawi.
Yes. Yeah, they did that one term, and it worked there.
Yes.
And it speaks to the democracy in Africa. Just in brief, because that is my area.
Yes.
I think the beauty that it speaks to even the situation in Uganda, that there is hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Some of these occurrences are fueling up the political environment in other African countries. And the beauty about it is when Musalia was saying that this year that there's no African president who has served one term, I think now the opposition brigade has an example to tell him, hey, look at the Malawi way. Yes.
We have seen it work.
I think it speaks to when you do not perform as a leader, especially the president in Africa, the people have a choice to vote you out. Period.
So when you are dissatisfied with the leadership that you have, you have an opportunity, you can change that through your vote. I think that is what is important to note out of that. And nothing is impossible, actually. So there's also this story about there are some countries who have come out of this ICC. Some African countries here. I'm looking for that report. I heard it. They said they do not want to continue being part of the ICC. Yeah, because they are looking at the cases. They are saying that the ICC, there are so many cases that ICC needed to solve, and they quoted and they were saying that in Africa, ICC has not done much.
Has it or has it not?
They were saying it has not done much. I'm looking for that report. I don't know where it has gone. Nimeona kama tunaenda kukua serious nayo ikapotea.
As you are looking for that report,
yes,
let me weigh in on the Malawi one term. There has been arrogance in the part of our political class to the effect that there is no incumbent president in Africa who can lose an election. For the context of Kenya, let us tell them that twice we have seen incumbents lose elections, but because of the culture of impunity that is deeply rooted in our political order, those presidents have stayed on. I must say here very boldly that in 2007 President Kibaki lost. I must also say here very boldly that in 2017 we overran Uhuru and his Jubilee machine. Some of the people who are saying that incumbents in Africa have never lost an election do not know that in 1967 Somalia had a peaceful transfer of power. These people, while they are thinking that that was a fluke, Malawi has proven to them that an incumbent can be overrun if he is out of touch with the people. We are saying this not to threaten those who are in power, but to remind them that what the Constitution says, that the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. And because of that, they are in office as trustees. As trustees of the people, let them work for the people, not to intimidate us that there is no incumbent in Africa who has lost an election. We would want to go to 2027 elections knowing very well that the people can cast their vote either way, and that in the event those who are in office were to lose favor with the people, we want an assurance, a constant assurance that the voice of the people would be respected. Political statements and posturing that no incumbent has ever lost power is reckless, is irresponsible, is unacceptable, and at Generation Report, we call them out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, sawa sawa, asante kwa maoni yako. Asante kwa maoni yako. So I was looking at those countries and I am not seeing, but I know they are West African countries. They said they are pulling out of ICC. Because they feel that they are not getting what they are supposed to get. I will look for that report come Saturday. We are going to do it.
But bottom line is, moving out of ICC is not the issue here. I think the ICC was brought in to take care of cases where countries cannot handle their own issues. The question is, are those countries having capacity to deal with the crimes that ICC deals with? Because they are not immune to crimes against humanity, genocide, and although so ICC has failed in its own right in persecuting maybe the people who are committing crimes in Sudan, in Israel, Palestine, but it does not justify countries who don't have the capacity to prosecute to pull out.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
Actually, I'm talking of Burkina Faso. There's Mali, there's Niger. So I don't want us to get into that story because we do not have much time. We are left with only 6 minutes, but we have this to do before to talk.
This is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation.
The mission has operated in a volatile environment under enormous constraints. It has been underfunded, under-equipped, and operated below 40% of its authorized personnel strength. Our police officers have valiantly shouldered responsibilities without the full logistical support that would accompany any mission sanctioned by the United Nations. Despite these challenges, and against all odds, the MSS has delivered results many thought were impossible.
Millions of people came through that southern border. Just a year ago, millions and millions of people were pouring in, 25 million altogether over the 4 years of the incompetent Biden administration. And now we have it stopped, totally stopped. In fact, they're not even coming anymore because they know they can't get through. But what took place is totally unacceptable. The UN is supposed to stop invasions, not create them and not finance them. In the United States, we reject the idea that mass numbers of people from foreign lands can be permitted to travel halfway around the world, trample our borders, violate our sovereignty, cause unmitigated crime, and deplete our... We have, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen. But she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up.
This is Generation Report, your weekly news roundup show on Radio Generation, where every headline has a heartbeat and every moment counts.
Well, we just need to wrap up this show, and we are doing it with the UN. What is happening in what was happening? I think are they done?
No, I think
so. There's that which President William Ruto spoke about, the mission that we are doing in Haiti. Yes, and we've also had. Okay, actually, I want us to pick that specific parties talking about ni kama tuliachiwa huu mzigo peke yetu, and then look at what Donald Trump, the US president, has also said about the UN. Anasema empty words. So questioning the purpose of the UN. A lot really happened there. We also saw the issue of Palestine. We saw during the side meetings, we've seen many countries coming out to support Palestine as a state and urging that Israel and Palestine do solve this issue as states. While Israel, of course, is saying that they don't want. You remember they said, the Prime Minister said that giving them, recognizing Palestine as a state, I think he talked of...
Is rewarding their mass.
Yes, something like that. Actually, we have run short of time. We only have 2 minutes. So I'm just going to give you 1 minute each to just wrap up. Ukimaliza unasema mpaka goodbye.
Thank you. Let me start.
Actually, not even 1 minute. This is 30 seconds.
I think President Ruto was in a rush to take our young men in Haiti, because a mission like that, you have to get a commitment from the UN or from whichever party is funding for you to take those young men out.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear Kidi.
Let me just wrap up.
We are running.
If that situation is the same way, I think those boys should come back.
Okay. Kidi, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
But there is so much to say there. But let me say this, that the two-state solution is something we cannot run away from.